What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Line Movement NFL Show. I'm Dieter Kurtenbach. Joe Holka's on that side. Peter Overzet's on that side, and we're talking week one. We made it, folks. I don't know if you realize this. We did have a football game on Thursday, but it's on. It is 1,000% on, and we're going to go through all of these Sunday games, maybe even hit up some Monday night games, try to make y'all some money here with blitzbet.eu, line movement. First off, let's talk to the panelists. Joe Holka, what's up, buddy?
What's up, Dieter? It's finally time to talk some football, man. It feels like it's been forever since we had a Sunday morning. We got our CEO in the chat, Chris Neville. He kept me up a little late last night. Had my stream before this, which went well, and a bunch of familiar faces in the chat. Moved right on over to our NFL show over on Line Movement, man. So could be a good time to kind of go through some of these games. Excited to chat with both of you guys, honestly, because this is like the first time you guys have ever met. So I'll take the L on that one, but it'll be fun, man.
It's gonna get weird. Peter Overzet, always weird. What's up, man?
Doing well, dude. I know Joe sounds concerned as if we would hop on here and not just have an immediate palpable chemistry. But for me, I'm just vibing here. I'm feeling good.
I'm getting all hot and bothered just thinking about what's going to go down here over the next hour. Hit us up on the chat. We're going to hit up some of your questions later on in the show. Hell, if I'm good at this, I might be able to do it just at any juncture. Who the hell knows? But let's start with some games. And let's start with, this is going to be actually a really interesting one. Last year, we had a massive line for the Dolphins. Everyone thought the Dolphins were going to suck. And now the Dolphins are kind of getting some respect a little bit. Spread's about 50-50 in terms of money or number of bets put on it. Cam Newton and the Patriots giving up 7 to the Miami Dolphins. I want to get both of your thoughts on the betting side and on the DFS side. What is your play and who are you playing on this one? Let's start with you, Joe Holka.
Yeah, I think from a DFS perspective, kind of a stay away for me overall. I think if you wanted to go to Cam Newton, it makes some sense. I think it's a little bit more foggy in terms of the weapons there. But yeah, from a betting perspective, like taking a look at this line on blitzbet.eu earlier today, I think it's an interesting one. I think the Patriots could be one of the ones that, like, I think they grind this one out to cover the spread. I think that it's one that, like, it when in doubt, these type of scenarios, I think you kind of just favor the better coach. We'll see what happens without Tom Brady. It's going to be weird overall just to see Cam Newton behind center for the Patriots. I think I'm more just looking forward to like watching this game more than actually having exposure in DFS or really betting it too heavily.
Peter, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think this game's interesting because the Dolphins and Patriots are two of the more black box mystery teams, I think, heading into this season. You know, we have no idea what Belichick's going to do with this offense. And I think if they really let Cam open up and kind of do what we saw him do early in his career, they could be very fun and exciting. That said, from a betting perspective, these divisional games always play closer. This isn't the Tom Brady Patriots where you just be like, okay, they're going to smash the Dolphins. And we know Ryan Fitzpatrick's MO. Like, he will continue to push the ball down the field. He will continue to take shots. And I don't think they play scared. We haven't seen him with Devontae Parker and Preston Williams, both in the offense. We got Gesicki ascending. I would take the points with Miami here. I just think there's too much uncertainty, and that spread's still a little too big for my liking.
I'll tell you what I really like in this game, and this is a trend that's going to develop for me over the course of this show and perhaps even over the course of the next couple of weeks. I'm taking the over on 41.5. You just can't convince me that these teams are going to both of these teams are going to play in the 20s. One of them is going to have, 10s. Get out of here, man. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick, if garbage time touchdowns count, man, and even if they just have a bunch of garbage time touchdowns, it's going to count to the total. 41.5 is just aggressive. I know a grinded out game, things like that, but tackling is going to be so bad in week one. It's going to be terrible. And that means a special teams touchdown, a touchdown that no one deserves on just a 9 route. Like, something stupid's going to happen pretty much across the board in every NFL game. That's just what my gut tells me. That's some great analysis right here. But like 41.5 just seems really low. So I'd be hitting that over. Just nothing else. It's fun to root for an over. But this game is going to be really weird, really interesting. And I'm excited to see what Josh McDaniels has cooked up for Cam Newton. And listen, I don't know what the narrative's going to be out of this game. It could very much be that Cam Newton still looks broken like he did at the end of his Carolina tenure. It could be that Cam Newton is an MVP candidate and we're talking about the Patriots as a Super Bowl contender again. No one knows, but I would be safe and take the 7.5 because that's a big old fat line. And I could see it honestly going either way. Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens. We all know that everybody's in on the Ravens. This is supposedly their year. I'm kind of in on the Browns, though, not at the Ravens level in general, but like the Browns were so bad last year, but they don't have Freddie Kitchens as a coach. Concern, of course, new head coach, new system. They got to go to this, Gary Kubiak style offense. Can Baker Mayfield pull that off? But they're getting 7.5 at most books in this game. 50-50 money line split, which I think is fairly interesting. Where do we sit on this one, Peter? How are you feeling about the Browns? How are you feeling about the Ravens? And who are you playing in this game?
Yeah, I think I'm more in the camp of this Cleveland team is going to struggle a lot this year. Jarvis Landry has been kind of their engine. The rumors are he might be on a pitch count today. He's been dealing with an injury all offseason, not necessarily full strength. Again, this team feels very fragile to me. I'm just not convinced Baker Mayfield is actually that good. If Baker Mayfield was out of the league in 2 years, I wouldn't be surprised. And on the flip side of the coin, we know how dominant Baltimore is. And I think one of the themes that we've all talked a lot about this offseason is the teams with continuity. And the Ravens' continuity has been incredible. So to me, I think Baltimore smashes here. I would take the points. You can bet the money line. You can bet the over. I think this team just gets off to a really fast start. I mean, Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown, the running game's going to be firing. And of course, Lamar Jackson. I think they're going to be an unstoppable force and get off to a fast start here.
What do you think about Hollywood Brown as a DFS play? Because obviously up and down, we weren't really sure what to get out of him in his rookie year. Do you think he'll be a consistent player in year 2?
So I don't know if consistent is the right word, but I think he's a great GPP play. I think one interesting that's shaping up on the slate right now is people are gravitating to some what I would consider boom bust options in a chalkier fashion. So Deshaun Jackson, Terry McLaurin, Marvin Jones, those guys don't profile necessarily as volume monsters. They're going to get it done with big plays. So I like going to a guy like Marquise Brown if he's going to fly under the ownership radar a little more so than those other guys.
And that's an interesting play, too, especially when you're looking for boomer bust guys. This would be the week to play those guys. One, you don't really know what the hell's going on. It's week 1. No one knows what the hell's going on. We didn't even see preseason, for better or for worse. And again, I think that tackling is going to be absolute garbage. So if you got a guy who can actually, break one open, hey, go for him. Joe Holka, what are you thinking about the Cleveland Browns? Am I completely off base in thinking that they're going to be better? I thought that the floor has already been reached with this team.
I think it's possible that they're better. I agree with Peter, though, that I think they're going to be one of the teams that maybe is kind of finding its way these first couple weeks of the season. Baltimore, obviously, a lot of consistency coming back on their end. So I think we talked about it on the Tuesday show when we were talking about some of these bets against the spread. I think Baltimore comes out here and just really starts fast, gets out to a decent sized lead. But the Kevin Stefanski type of impact that they could have on the Browns, I guess, long term is something we'll have to keep an eye on for sure. I think that I'm with Peter from a DFS and fantasy perspective that Hollywood's really interesting if he goes significantly lower owned than Mark Andrews. That said, Mark Andrews is one of my favorite plays of the entire week. Just the way that this defense is built on the Browns side, just this analytics driven type of team. There's going to be a lot of room, I think, in the middle of the field for Mark Andrews to operate. So I think that stack for all three of them squarely in play for DFS. I think this game, I don't think the Ravens have much trouble covering the spread in this one. I don't know if it's going to be especially close.
Interesting prop bet here. Lamar Jackson passing yards, 222.5. I'm taking the under on that one. I imagine they stay on the ground big time in week 1, especially with Jackson healthy. That said, the flip side, the counter argument there is Jackson wants to go out and prove that he can throw the ball in week 1, and maybe Cleveland's a good defense to do it against. That's something to keep an eye on. I'm probably taking the under on that one. Baker Mayfield, 245.5. I might take the over on that one just because I'm feeling the Browns this year. I agree with everything you said. It's good analysis. Don't get me wrong, but there's just something about a team that everyone hyped up. This is a counter hype, and I'm feeling it a little bit coming from the Cleveland Browns this year. And I wouldn't be shocked if we have a bit different narrative about them going into week 2. Jets and Bills, real crappy narratives here. I can't believe people have to watch this football game. Bills are getting 6.5 or giving 6.5. I don't know. I mean, Overzet, take it. I don't want to talk about this game.
It's gross. The Bills, I think, are going to be in a very exciting offense this year. I think maybe the public is still underrating what Stephon Diggs brings to this offense. Now you slide over John Brown. He doesn't have to carry the load as a wide receiver 1. Diggs is that alpha wide receiver. They bring in Zach Moss, who's a pretty exciting running back complement. So even though they have some new pieces, I think they're set up to pick up where they left off last year. And I just don't think this Jets team is good. I don't think Le'Veon Bell has much left. They were excited about the rookie Denzel Mims. He's ruled out for today. Means Brashad Perriman, Jamison Crowder are probably getting a lot of work. To me, this is a nice spot for the Bills. And again, we should always be a little weary of these divisional matchups early, but the Bills just seem like so much the better team.
Holka?
Yeah, I think when in doubt, just fade Adam Gase and basically anything. If you're betting, if you're doing fantasy, anything like that, I think that's probably my biggest takeaway from this game. I'm with Peter. I'm definitely on the Bills, bullish on them overall for the 2020 season. Love Stephon Diggs, love the weapons. I don't know if I'm necessarily a Josh Allen truther, but everyone online keeps telling me I am because I keep talking about how good of a play he is in DFS and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that the Jets are going to have a hard time keeping up. This game's just it's gross, right? Like I think Adam Gase, like the defense is depleted. Like it's the same old type of problems that we see from this offense. Now we got Frank Gore backing up Le'Veon Bell. It's just a complete mess over there. So I think the Bills roll in this one, which makes me really unhappy because I listened to Leone in a couple hours talk about his Bills.
I just realized Frank Gore revenge game right here.
Oh, I mean, he's got a couple of those
Frank
now.
Gore
So
going back. Yeah, exactly. That's
Would there be anything more 2020 than Frank Gore falling in the end zone 3 times a day?
He's got to do it.
Nope. Though that would also be 2019 and 2018 and 2017.
Fair.
Frank Gore is 1942. Frank Gore is inevitable. How do we feel about the total in this game? I'm seeing 39.5 pretty much across the board, and that just yells gross at me. I don't want anything to do with a game that's the total, but I don't know if you're a Josh Allen truther. I feel like you might be in on the over there, even with the Jets sucking. I don't know. Holka, what do you feel about the over here?
Yeah, I mean, the smart people just keep telling me to pound overs today. So I guess this is one that I'm going to have to plant my flag on again since I'm going to have all these Bill sacks and DFS. Might as well, man. It could be a good day for me if this game goes over. So we'll go with that.
All right. I got to ask you this. I mean, are you a Matt Barkley truther at all? Because you might have to be around week 9. Just throwing that out there.
That's a tough scene.
It is. Well, that's the entire city of Buffalo for you. Sorry. All right, let's go to the Vegas Raiders. That hurts me as someone who lives in Oakland. It physically hurts me to say that out loud. And the Carolina Panthers. Oh boy, talk about another tough scene here. The Raiders are favored by 3, I guess. I don't know. Like I have a weird read on Carolina right now. Peter, I want to get your thoughts on this. Like, is Carolina decent or are they tanking? Because I can't seem to figure them out.
Yeah, to me, I'm the same way as you. That was the line that jumped out at me the most. The Raiders, who I think are going to still be one of the worst teams in football. Almost all of their wins last year were within 1-score games. That sets them up to be on the bad side of variance this year. And now they travel across the country and they're a 3-point favorite. Like, how is this Carolina team any worse than they were last year? I mean, I know they lose Luke Kuechly, but Bridgewater is a massive upgrade over Kyle Allen. They have some of the most exciting weapons in all of football. They should not be an underdog here at home. I don't buy it. I think Josh Jacobs will have a good game on the ground and they're going to commit to that. But to me, give me the Carolina money line.
Especially at home, too. And listen, we talked about this midweek. There's probably not much value anymore in the West Coast team going to the East Coast. That books have figured that one out. But even so, like, are you betting on John Gruden in general to kind of buck that trend? Like, no, come on, get the hell out of here. Derek Carr is still the quarterback of the Raiders, which means that on any 4th down, he could just throw it away. Holka, I don't know. Do you have any vibes on the Raiders right now? Or are we all just going to ride with Carolina in this game because we don't know what else to do?
I think it's kind of a tricky opening for the Raiders overall, right? I definitely think that they're the better team. I don't know. It's tough. Like I think Josh Jacobs, he's up for probably being one of the chalkier running backs today from a DFS perspective. So
for sure,
will he catch passes? Will he not catch passes? We'll see. I think that it's one of the situations where on the other side of the ball, I think every show that I go on, I'm just going to give people permission to play Christian McCaffrey because if you haven't been around, he's pretty good.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So just so everyone knows it's okay to find a way to play this guy in fantasy. I would imagine you could be as, I guess, hungover as Peter was this morning and still have him find a way to his lineup.
The thing about Christian McCaffrey that's interesting is, last year he was obviously smashing and he would find his way into the optimal lineups week after week. I mean, I've run a lot of optimal lineups this week and he does not show up in many of them, especially now with the Boston Scott value opening up as kind of the premier punt play. Antonio Gibson is still nice. And then, like you said, guys like Josh Jacobs, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara in that mid-range. I don't think I'm going to have any Christian McCaffrey this week in DFS. And I guess that's why I'm a fish.
Whoa. Hot damn, man. That's an aggressive play. But you know what? It might work out for you because he's going up against the vaunted Raiders defense with all of the rookies and underperformers. Yeah, I'm taking Christian McCaffrey across the board just on principle at this juncture. If we don't know what the hell is going on, trust that Christian McCaffrey is going to have a big game. And if nothing else, Teddy Bridgewater can't throw the ball downfield anyway, so he's got to get it to Christian McCaffrey. So
I do want to get one take here. I'm not on Christian McCaffrey, but I love DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore, similar to like Terry McLaurin, is just underpriced relative to his role and how good he is. He just absolutely smashed down the stretch this year. He's one of my favorite tournament plays today.
I'm also kind of surprised. What do you guys think about Darren Waller as like a tight end play? Because I don't see any wide receivers that I would respect with the Raiders. And I think that they're going to have to pass the ball at some juncture to somebody other than Josh Jacobs. I feel like Waller is poised to have a big game, especially over the middle. As we mentioned, I don't know who the hell's playing linebacker for Carolina anymore. Like that feels like a nice opportunity there. How do you feel about Darren Waller's value in DFS today?
Yeah, I love Darren Waller just as a player. I think the volume will be there, all of those things. It's just a really tough price point on a week one where we don't normally have where we don't have as much value as we normally do. I think my biggest concern is game flow, though. Like if Vegas ends up getting way ahead in this one, like does it end up just being the Josh Jacobs show? It gets in the end zone twice, and then we just don't see a lot of pass attempts overall. I think there's a couple of, like, from a DFS perspective, I know we're jumping around a little bit, but Riggs is just very cheap on FanDuel in particular. I think trying to, look at the skill set for someone like Derek Carr. Riggs is someone that does make sense to me as someone that could benefit from that. If it isn't Waller, I think it could potentially be the rookie.
Okay. And Brian Edwards sitting there too. Just stay away from that, man. Like the reports coming out of Vegas is that, he's playing, but that's a forced thing. They don't want that to be happening.
Hey guys, I have a question for the Deposit King real quick. Can we compare and contrast Curtis Samuel to DJ Moore? Ooh. Right now I'm looking at some props. Ooh. We have Curtis Samuel at over 36.5 at -112 and DJ Moore at over 60.5 at -200. I know they're different players and they have different roles, but I mean, I see a little bit of a relative value there as well.
Yeah, that is interesting. I think, Curtis Samuel last year was top 10 in air yards. He was getting all of his targets deep down the field. So it makes it kind of a polarized outcome of either he whiffs on that or he smashes it, where I think DJ Moore has that nice blend of floor and upside. So I still, if I'm making a bet, I want to take the over on DJ Moore, but I don't hate that line for Curtis Samuel.
All right, let's talk about a game that I find just inherently fascinating. I have no idea what to think about this because now the public has come to my side of things. And whenever that happens, something's gone horribly wrong. I usually bet against the public. The Seahawks opened up as a 1-point favorite on the road in Atlanta. Atlanta is now a 1.5 favorite at some books. I feel like Atlanta's getting undervalued in general on this season, but they're also like not good. Like I don't think that there's some like juggernaut that's going to compete for the Super Bowl. I just think that they're way better than they were last year, and they have a coach who's on the hot seat, and like things are going to look up for them a little bit. Meanwhile, Seattle is just like a perennial 8-8 team that has a great, unbelievable quarterback, so they're going to win 10 games just on principle. I don't know. Talk me through this one from your guys' perspective. I want DFS plays. I want over under. And I want your betting pick on this one. Atlanta, 1.5 favorite at home against the Seattle Seahawks. Let's go with you, Holka.
Yeah, so I think this is, we talked about it on Tuesday on the Betting Against the Spread show. Like Atlanta feels like the team that has one of the largest range of outcomes of almost any team in the league. Like, would you be that surprised if they won 3 games or like they could easily get to 10 or 11 too? Like, I'm not really sure what to think about this team overall. So I'm with you that it's an interesting game from a DFS perspective. I think it's going to be relatively popular from a game stack scenario. Russell Wilson, Metcalf, Lockett, pretty easy to get in your lineup with the value that we have today. On the other side, Julio Jones, Ridley. It's really nice to have these teams where it's a very condensed target share. We know where the ball is going to go. No one's going to be able to talk me into Todd Gurley today, but I would imagine there'll be some people that play him. It's an interesting game. I think that if you wanted to go with the corpse of Greg Olsen at tight end, he's pretty cheap. He's probably not going to be owned, probably game stacks only. I could see this game going over, though. And if I had to pick one, probably going to be Seattle to cover the spread here. But I think it's relatively close and go either way. Probably a stay away for me.
I get that. Pete, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you that the Falcons seem kind of undervalued here too. And the DFS ownership on the wide receivers is kind of pointing to that as well, with Metcalf and Lockett garnering a little bit more ownership than Ridley and Julio. So yeah, give me the home team in the dome. Lots of good continuity there for Matt Ryan and his two weapons. There's a little excitement for Hayden Hurst. He's coming over from Baltimore. But to me, this is really the season where Ridley kind of inches up closer to Julio in target share. So I think that's just such a nice double stack. And then you can bring it back even with Carson or one of the Seattle Seahawks wide receivers. So I think you can do that without even getting too chalky. So yeah, give me the Falcons in DFS and in the betting markets.
I feel good about the Falcons. At the same time, I will fade Todd Gurley all day, every day. I'm just going along your lines here. Like, I just don't get it. I understand that he was really good with the Rams 3 years ago. Then his body broke down. Like, I don't mean to be crass about it, but like, if he couldn't run in that offense that was built for him, what the hell is he going to do in Atlanta where the offense is built to kill him? Like,
there's probably an argument too that this is the healthiest he's going to be all year, right? It's week 1. So, I mean, I get it. I don't think it's for me, but I do get it.
I remember.
I was just going to say, the thing that makes Gurley such a riddle, for season-long drafts, he was just such an auto fade. But like in a 1-week sample, it's like they are not going to force feed Brian Hill and Ito Smith touches. Like, they're going to give him as much as he can handle. But I mean, the reports even a month ago were like he could barely cut still on his knee, like side to side. So
when was he ever able to cut the last like 18 months? Like,
it's been a long time.
Here's the thing. My stance on Todd Gurley is this, and this is a privileged viewpoint where I've been very high above, the field, and I can see this. The dude has never had vision. Never, not once. And he was able to run through holes that were big enough that you and I could get through them and get a 2-yard gain in the NFL. We die at the end of it, but we get the gain. And as soon as he lost all of his burst and the burst is gone, what good is he? Like, he's just a name. So I'm out on Todd Gurley. And honestly, if they're going to feed him a bunch of times on the principle of, hey, we got this guy, let's see what he's got, he's all the way healthy, I might have to fade Atlanta in general. Like, I felt good about this when they were underdogs and they are getting 2.5 points in some places. Now, I don't know. I think this is a stay away game in general, because if a line can move, if we were already close and now it's entirely flipped, just stick away, hit some player props. Calvin Ridley plus 120 to score the first touchdown. Maybe that's something that interests you. I don't think there's good value there, but like, I don't know. This game's a mess. I'll keep an eye on it because I do think there will be indicative things for future weeks, as there are in all games, but especially with this one. But man, like, other than playing Russell Wilson, everything else is a total goddamn wild card. Philadelphia, Washington football team. People are kind of feeling Washington in this game. I'm not really sure why. Can either of you explain to me why the Washington football team is getting some love against a Philadelphia team that made the playoffs last year with lawn chairs as wide receivers?
As crazy as it sounds, I think this game is one that you have to get right from a fantasy and DFS perspective, because there's a decent amount of value, but also like both defenses are probably in play in this one. I think that it's some struggles in terms of the offensive line on both sides, but both defensive lines are super underrated overall. Like, Washington is almost the stone min, I believe, on DraftKings. They might be on DraftKings. The FanDuel, they're pretty close to it, if not. So I think that there's going to be a lot of pressure on both sides, which is going to lead to probably a lot less efficiency from both of these quarterbacks. So I don't know if it ends up being a game where we want to hammer the over by any means, but I definitely think that there's a couple interesting plays here from a DFS perspective. I'll let Pete talk about our boy Terry McLaurin, but I think defense on the Washington side, probably my favorite play in this game. But I could be talking to McLaurin probably.
Yeah, Joe's entirely right. When I was talking about the optimal lineups, like when you run a bunch of lineups, it's just Washington football team and Eagles everywhere. We mentioned Boston Scott as the nicest, value play on the slate. But yeah, the Washington team is interesting. And to me, where the market might not have caught up yet is with this coaching situation. Last year, they were one of the slowest teams in the league, running Adrian Peterson, bleeding clock. Now they have the Panthers with Ron Rivera and Scott Turner, who play at a much faster pace. So if we get a pace uptick, and Dwayne Haskins is just marginally better than he was last year, then it is explosion time for guys like Terry McLaurin. And yeah, I agree with Joe. I think you have to get this game right. I love Terry McLaurin. I'm a little worried about his ownership getting out of hand, but I think there's other ways you can get unique in your lineup. Maybe you double stack him. You want to punt with Logan Thomas at 2,800. You want to get Steve Sims in there. I think that stuff's all viable, and then you can bring it back with one of Boston Scott or the pass catchers.
Any deep value in this game? Any names that jump out to you from the DFS landscape where you're like, I feel like there's real value in this one, or is this not the game for that?
Well, I mentioned Boston Scott, and the question always comes up, is it good chalk or is it bad chalk? To me, he is really good chalk because his only competition for touches is Corey Clement. They didn't bring anyone in throughout this offseason. Everyone kept saying, oh, they're going to bring in Freeman. They're going to bring in Lamar Miller. So the kind of faith that shows in Boston Scott to back up Miles Sanders, who's been injured this whole time, the team knew. So I think Boston Scott, he also has a high pass catching floor. He was catching a ton of passes down the stretch last year, and they're fine with him at the goal line. So to me, he's chalk that you want to eat.
Yeah, no, he's an outstanding play. Good play in season-long fantasy, good play in DFS today. How are we feeling about this line, though? 6.5 for the Eagles in some places. I'm seeing 6 in others. Again, people are starting to bet in on this Washington team at 6.5. It started at 6. We haven't seen really any movement despite a lot of money going in on Philadelphia early. It's coming back now. That feels right because Washington's not good. But is Philadelphia so much better that in week 1 there's going to be a significant touchdown separation here? I don't know. Am I off here, Holka? I'm starting to feel like this is a bit of a trap.
Well, Pete wouldn't know this because he was a little bit off the grid yesterday, but we did go with Washington plus 5.5 for the super contest entry we have with me, Pete, and Leone for the Tilt Space show. So I'm going to have to stand firm on Washington in this one, even though they're an underdog. I think that there's a lot of smart people, a lot of the percentage of the money has been going a little bit towards Washington as we progressed here. So that's something we're always paying attention to, not necessarily the number of tickets, but some of the larger bets being placed. A lot of sharps on Washington today.
How do you feel about Haskins, Holka?
I mean, not a big fan overall. I'm not going to lie. I think that Terry McLaurin has a chance to make him look a little better than he is at least. But yeah, not a huge fan. This game scares me because there's so much value here that could go terribly wrong. I know when at some point when we build our lineup for the 1500, Pete, you guys are probably going to make me play Boston Scott. Just please don't make me play Boston Scott and Antonio Gibson. I don't think I can handle that.
No,
that is stress.
I won't. I just want to tell everyone the courage that Joe has on this stream today. He's told you that he doesn't like Dwayne Haskins and that he likes Christian McCaffrey. Thank you, Joe, for going out on a limb today.
That's why people watch me, man. I spit facts, man. All the hot takes.
Spicy. Very spicy. All right. A game that could never be described as spicy is Mitch Trubisky versus Matt Stafford. The Bears and the Lions in an NFC North snooze fest, I imagine. This entire division needs to get contracted. The Lions minus 2.5 in this game, over under 42.5. Geez Louise, man. I mean, are we just going to fade Trubisky on principle and fade the Bears by proxy? How do we feel about this, Pete?
Yeah, to me, this is similar to the Washington-Philly game as a game you need to get right because there's some really nice value plays here. And this game projects to have a lot of points from just a pace perspective. Our buddy Pat Thorman wrote this game up as a pace-up spot. Both teams in situation-neutral situations like to play fast. And again, we're not too far removed. Everyone has a negative connotation from Trubisky, but he has been in Millie Maker winning lineups before. He can go on these games where he rushes for a touchdown, throws a couple to Allen Robinson, one to Anthony Miller, and next thing you know, he's shipping someone $1 million. So I definitely want pieces of this game. I do prefer the Stafford side, at least from a DFS perspective. However, I think you can get funky with Trubisky. I think it's allowed.
So long as he doesn't have to throw to the left, he'll be just fine. How do you feel about this one, Holka?
Peter, let me kick this to you. And by the way, I believe we still have Chris Neville in the chat, our CEO, who has won the $1 million before. So I want his take on this if he's still here. But what's more likely, that we see Nick Foles in this game or that Mitch Trubisky is on the Millie Maker winning lineup? Pete? If you had to pick one of those scenarios happening, which one is
I
it?
think you killed him. I think you killed him with a hypothetical.
Yeah, that
Pete's
one
literally
really
lost connection.
No. I think that the pure math is it's more likely for Foles to come in. Just pure math. That said,
The math? What math?
What are we doing here, math?
Think about how many quarterbacks are playing. You know, he probably has what a 5% chance of being in the Millie Maker winning lineup, and you know, there's probably a 25% chance he gets benched. You know, we've all expected it to be a short leash. So if he throws 2 picks, I mean, I think they bring in Foles.
I don't know, man. I feel like they have to ride him a lot longer than you would think. Like, honestly, I mean, yes, you're probably torpedoing a game by just playing him out, but I think you need to see like at least 2 or 3 games worth of snaps for Mitch Trubisky to bench his ass, because once you put him on the bench, he's not coming back. Like now you're running with Nick Foles, and he wasn't good enough to beat out Mitch Trubisky. So how good could he really be? Like I think the Millie is probably the answer here, which is wild.
Everyone wants to talk about how Trubisky's had so much success against this Lions team. Like I hate these.
Who
like
doesn't?
This quarterback plays well against this team. I guess there is a little bit of math behind it, Pete, if we want to kick it back to that, just because they do play a lot of man coverage, which in theory would mean that Trubisky will be running a little bit more. So I get it from the DFS perspective. If you think that is the case, it's scary though. It's more of a large field type of contest, Millie Maker type of thing. But if we see Nick, like if he gets benched at halftime and I've got a couple of Trubisky stacks in there, I'm just going to be really sad. Hopefully it's not on our 1500 team.
We have I was just going to say we had a question in the chat about Golladay. He is inactive. Right now we have the full slate of inactives coming through. So we'll pass along any others that surprise us. But yes, Galladay's inactive, makes Marvin Jones and Hawkinson both really good plays in DFS.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to ask you. How do you feel about Hawkinson? How do you feel about how do you guys feel about Stafford as a DFS play? I mean, I know the Bears defense should be okay, if not good, but like he's pretty good too.
Yeah, I like Stafford a lot, and I prefer Hawkinson to Marvin Jones, just ownership adjusted. Hawkinson, you know, former first round pick. We saw the big play potential in their week 1 game last year against Arizona. It ended up being his really only blow up game, but he has all of the skills and attributes of a guy who's going to take that second year leap, which is where we normally see those first round tight ends break out. So yeah, I'm all in on Hawkinson, and this sets up really nice for him.
It'll be interesting to see if Hawkinson can take that step forward. I think it gives a whole new dimension to a Lions offense, which I think is getting slept on kind of around the NFL. It's just people sleep on Detroit. That's what's going to happen. But I don't know. It feels like that could be a sneaky team that a couple of weeks in, we're talking about one of the better offenses in the NFL. And that obviously has big ramifications in fantasy, both DFS and you know, yearly and such. I don't think we're going to spend too much time talking about Gardner Minshew's Jacksonville Jaguars, who are garbage. But how about Philadelphia, or how about Phillip Rivers and the Indianapolis Colts? They're giving up 7.5, 8 in some books to Jacksonville, who's just terrible. They're just awful. Over under in this game 44. I don't know how I feel about that total. How do we feel about Indianapolis? Let's just talk about them in a big macro sense, because this game makes my head hurt. How do we feel about the Colts?
Yeah, I think one thing people are probably going to start thinking instantly, they see Phillip Rivers for the Colts, and they think he's just going to go out there and start slinging the ball around. I don't think that's really what they want to do. I think in theory they want to try and keep it on the ground as much as possible with these running backs that they have. Who knows which one of those running backs is going to emerge as someone that can see the majority of the touches. So it's kind of a stay away in terms of DFS outside of the Colts defense for me. Overall, Jacksonville, not a ton of interest overall in this spot, or probably going to be for most of the year. I think Gardner Minshew is a little bit underrated in terms of what he can do from a fantasy perspective. But overall, I think that this game could just end up being a fewer amount of plays than some of the other ones we talked about, just because I think that Indy's going to keep it on the ground quite a bit.
Why wouldn't they? Peter, what are your thoughts here on playing Chris Thompson as just a garbage time stat filler?
Honestly, like, I don't think Chris Thompson is that different from the Antonio Gibson play. And I think he might even just be a better play when you consider ownership. And same with a guy like Tariq Cohen in that Bears matchup, not to get us back on the Trubisky.
No. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. We had to circle around to Tariq Cohen at some point.
We had to. That said, I do agree with Joe. I think the game script sets up for a lot of Marlon Mack. They're going to mix in their talented rookie Jonathan Taylor as well. But to your point, Dieter, I think you can bring back some Gardner Minshew stacks. And, DJ Chark is a stud. I love the rookie Laviska Shenault. The rumors are they're going to get him involved in a lot of creative ways. And then Chris Thompson. So I think if you want to do one of those kind of gross stacks, you could play a Marlon Mack with a couple of Jags, and that's going to be really low owned. And the game script should set up for the Jags to just have to pass a ton in the second half.
Looks like Indianapolis is going to keep the ball on the ground. And again, we don't know if it's going to be Marlon Mack or Jonathan Taylor. And this is a game that will, inform us as to which one is more likely going forward. This is the downside of not having a preseason. Obviously, we get fresh players, but we have no information to go off of other than practice reports, and who the hell knows if those are accurate or not. I'm curious, though, about the wide receivers for the Colts. Does anyone jump out at you as a possible play this week? Does anyone stand out to you as somebody to keep your eye on in weeks to come? Let's go with Peter. How about that?
Yeah, go ahead, Pete. I'm struggling a little bit with this wide receiver core, so I'm going to see what I can find here.
That's what I'm saying.
I know. I just, in general, one of my leaks in my fantasy game is just a natural age bias. So like Phillip Rivers to T.Y. Hilton just does not even make it move for me remotely. Some people are excited about the rookie there, Pittman. I just am not. I don't hold out much hope for him early on. I guess Paris Campbell's kind of exciting. He has that kind of profile of a second-year breakout or a bounce-back guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this team wants to run. I mean, when you bring in Jonathan Taylor to pair with Marlon Mack, they've already told us what they want to do.
Jordan, actually, I know Jordan, our producer, shout out Jordan. Can you bring up the NFL data table for a second? Let's take a look at T.Y. Hilton. So if we just sort of look, yeah, cool. So as he's doing that, one thing that kind of stood out to me, and by the way, if you guys haven't seen this NFL data table, it's in our resources tab at linemovement.com. Basically, all the things that I think really matter at each position. It's absolutely free. There's ownership here. There's a lot of great stuff. We're trying to just build as many types of resource pages that you guys can go to for free, right? So if we were to kind of talk about T.Y. Hilton, one of the things that I think really stands out is his weighted opportunity rating last year. So that's something that, again, shout out Josh Hermsmeyer, all the air yards data that he's been able to accumulate for the community. He has this metric called weighted opportunity rating that is essentially target share of air yards, a little bit of target market share as well. So it gives us these guys that are seeing deeper targets down the field and seeing a good percentage of their team's targets. So T.Y. Hilton at 5,800, if he's going to be lower owned, I think is at least interesting at where his volume has been in the past. I guess my biggest concern would be that Rivers isn't really someone that has been throwing deep recently. So there'd be, I guess, a little bit of a concern there. But this Jacksonville team actually 28th at defending deep passes last year in the league. So if T.Y. Hilton gets deep for one of these targets that he could be getting, I think that he's at least, I was hoping he would come in a little bit lower ownership. Pete, what do you think about T.Y.?
Yeah, I do think he is a good play. I mean, the ownership I'm seeing for him is around 9%. I think that's okay. But again, if you can get Godwin at 10% around the similar price, Lockett at 10% similar price, to me, those guys just have ceilings and in better game environments that Hilton can't match.
Yeah, I think you just fade everything Indianapolis today and tomorrow and forever outside of the run game until we have some definition there. And even then, you might not be able to get enough, carry shares to really make a dent. So this one's a stay away just on all causes because it's Phillip Rivers. So he's going to be down 7 going into the final drive. That's just how Phillip Rivers rolls. And even against Jacksonville, I don't know. I'm staying away from this one entirely. I try to stay away in general from the NFC North because, again, garbage division. The two best teams, I guess, who knows, Green Bay and Minnesota go at it today. Minnesota 2.1.5 point favorites. This is a very variable line. So wherever you can find it with the most value, according to our picks right here, go for that. It started off at the Vikings giving up 3. Total is 44.5. Most people seem to be in on the Packers. I generally fade the Packers. Didn't really work out for me last year, even though the numbers were there, but I generally fade them. I don't think they're very good. I'm out on Aaron Rodgers. Peter, how do you feel about this game? Is there anybody you're playing on this one? And how do you feel about this Minnesota home field advantage, I suppose?
Yeah, to me, this isn't a game that I'm looking to stack up or go crazy on. The one nice thing is we know the best player on both of these teams and what they want to do. The Vikings want to give Dalvin Cook, who just got a new contract, the ball as many times as possible. And the Packers want to funnel the ball to Devontae Adams as many times as possible. Right. So from a DFS perspective, those guys are always going to be really nice plays. I think Dalvin Cook is going to be one of the better running back plays just because Josh Jacobs is going to catch a lot of ownership. Alvin Kamara is, and he's kind of just in this dead zone between the people who want to pay up for Christian McCaffrey and the cheaper guy. So I like Dalvin Cook a lot. From a DFS perspective, I mean, he's going to catch passes. He's going to get goal line work. I don't think he's going to lose too much to Madison. So Dalvin Cook is a guy I'm going to have a lot of today.
How do you feel about it, Holka? Because we haven't even mentioned Aaron Jones yet. How do you feel about Aaron Jones first and foremost? And then what are you playing besides him, if you're playing him at all?
Yeah, so I go to a decent amount of Vikings games. One of the ones that I went to last year that was especially boring was the one where they played the Packers. So it was basically a couple long runs from Aaron Jones. And outside of that, it was, I believe that was the Alexander Madison game where everyone had him Pete and he just rammed it into the line 20 times for like 30 yards. So at least we do have Dalvin Cook. That's great. I agree with Pete that from a DFS perspective, he's one of the best leverage plays on the slate, especially if people are going to be paying up for Christian McCaffrey or just that range in general. I think Kamara will be more popular. So I'm in on Dalvin for sure. I think it makes a little bit more sense to be heavy on the fantasy side for Minnesota. Not a lot to love, I think, from the Packers from a betting perspective. It just shapes up as a gross game to me. These NFC North games, I guess, think are going to be pretty brutal overall as we're kind of progressing through this season. I think that this one probably a stay away. If anything, this might be one of our only unders that we could feel pretty good about.
Yes. I feel real good about an under 45 total in some places. I mean, yeah, this game is just going to be messy. And even if you do get that sloppy, nonsensical touchdown, I don't think it's like adding on to some grand total with either of these teams. I will give you guys this, though. This is my only viable insight. First touchdown props, I'm taking second tight ends across the board today.
Nice.
Just give me the second tight end in the goal line set all day, every day, because that has not been properly evaluated yet by everybody. No one really knows what these sets are going to be. No preseason. Take your second tight ends. If you hit on two of them, you're good for the week.
Well, I know Pete already disagrees with you because he's all over the fullbacks in this game, right? Any CJ Ham
fullbacks?
You know what?
Pete's the fullback guy.
No. That was my alter ego, Pete Manzanelli, who he's MIA. So no, that's don't associate that with my brand, Joe.
Fair enough.
You can throw it on mine though. I
don't mind some CJ Ham.
Listen, I'll talk 21 personnel with you boys all day. In fact, we can even go to 22 personnel, which would be ultimately my steez. All right. NFC North sucks. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
We just talked about CJ Ham. Probably time to move on, I guess.
I mean, you want to talk about AJ Dillon and what the hell he might end up doing? Because I don't understand the theory of AJ Dillon, much less the practical usage of him.
Yeah, not for me, I think.
Okay, we're moving on. Let's talk about the Chargers and the Bengals in a game that wants to make us sad. We feel in Joe Burrow because this total started at 44 and has now been bet down to 41. They just took 3 points off the board, and yet people are still like, I'm feeling good about Joe Burrow. I'm feeling good that Joe Burrow is going to be nailed into the ground 100 times in this game. I don't even like the Chargers that much, just in general. I just think that Cincinnati's terrible. And yeah, I think I'll just take the Chargers -3 just across the board on principle. And I'll probably, I don't know. How do we feel about the total? 41 and a half. That feels low, but I don't know. It's the Bengals. Holka, is it a stay away? Are you feeling there's value there? I want to go over, but come on.
I feel like I should just continue to catch Pete up on our super contest picks for the week. So we do have
let me
the Chargers.
know who I have. We have $5,000 on.
Yeah. So winner take all. This should be great. I'm so glad we're playing in that. And basically, -3 for the Chargers. What we'll be rooting for today. So I can't come on this show and say any differently. I do think that it's we talked about it on Tuesday, Dieter. It's just such a tough spot for this offensive line in Cincinnati. Like I get it, all the things that Joe Burrow was able to do in college, but I think that this Chargers defense still, at least the pass rush, could be pretty elite. One of these teams that we're talking about in the same kind of wind as Pittsburgh in terms of their pass rush. So I think it could be it's a really tough first contest for Joe Burrow to have. So I don't know if there's really a line here that I love outside of Chargers -3, of course, since we're about to win this 5K contest in Vegas, obviously.
Peter, is there any alter ego that enjoys the Cincinnati Bengals?
Yeah, they're, similar to that Patriots Dolphins game. This is another one of the more like black box mystery games. Obviously, Bengals overhauled with Burrow, Chargers new look with Tyrod Taylor. I do think the Chargers are a little interesting without Mike Williams. It sounds like he's not going to go. It really condenses things to Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, and Hunter Henry. So from a fantasy perspective, that's interesting to me. That said, I do think the Bengals, the big question is, are they going to let Joe Burrow cook, like he did at LSU, or are they going to give it?
Can he cook?
Can he cook, or are they going to give it to Joe Mixon, 35 times? So I like the under in this game. I am glad learning about my $5,000 bet on the Chargers. I now feel good about that now that I know it is a thing. But
Jordan's fading us. Look at this. Jordan's in the chat. He just booked Cincy at +2.5.
Yeah, well, that's Jordan.
I told you 2 days ago. That's honestly Cincy +2.5 is my second favorite bet on the week, I think, overall.
Boy.
So pulling for the 5,000. I'm rooting for you. I'll take my loss.
We both know you're cheering for chaos in that thing.
How do you feel about Mixon in general? You just mentioned he might get the ball 35 times. Are you going to play him in any lineups?
I love Mixon. I'm with Pete on that one. I think that he's one of the more underpriced, I guess, volume backs this week. I don't love the situation clearly at the line is not in his favor. But if Joe Burrow is running around for his life, maybe we see Joe Mixon get a couple more catches than he normally does. He's not one of those elite type of volume pass catchers that we come to think of. But I think that he's just underpriced.
Yeah, he might become one real fast.
Yeah.
I really fear for Joe Burrow's life in this game. And again, I'm not even that high on the Chargers defense. I just think that offensive line in Cincinnati is god awful. All right, a game that is going to happen, according to the San Francisco 49ers and the NFL with their proprietary air data, is Niners and Cardinals. And this is a game that I imagine that anyone who enjoys fantasy was looking at immediately, because Arizona is the darling of that community. Or maybe I'm just completely off base and don't know anything. 7 points for the 49ers. Total of 48.5, which is feeling pretty saucy. I feel like an over is just in the books there. I think that we're getting touchdowns galore in that game, and it's just a shootout until the very end. Most of the bets are going towards Arizona right now, which I find interesting. I think Arizona is perhaps overvalued. Everyone loves Kyler Murray. Everyone loves the offense. It's going to be a really fun fantasy team for everybody, but I would like to mention that they also have to play defense, and their defense is god-awful, just absolutely terrible. 49ers, I imagine, are going to cook today. Garoppolo loves throwing over the middle. 49ers have two tight ends that Arizona simply cannot cover. Buda Baker got paid a lot of money, right? He can't cover either of the 49ers tight ends in Jordan Reed and George Kittle. He can't cover them. So one of them is going to be open at all times, and Jimmy Garoppolo only throws in between the hash marks. So you can do the math. He's going to have a lot of yards passing. Those tight ends are going to cook. I got Jordan Reed as a 2-touchdown guy in this game. I just feel like that's Kyle Shanahan's going to do him a service there. And
Dieter is have to open above market on Jordan Reed's projection today.
Do it. I'm telling you right now.
So good.
Dude, I bet we talk about these black box games. This is the one that I can provide serious insight to. I have seen Jordan Reed at 49ers practice. Dude is balling out. He is absolutely losing his mind against a good defense that can cover tight ends. He is cooking dudes left and right. Great route runner, and I imagine. And Kyle Shanahan just loves the dude. He just loves the dude. So he's going to get him 2 touchdowns early just to make a point, because he's going to be able to choose the guy who gets to score a touchdown against this Arizona defense. That's how bad it is. I'm taking the over. You can take either side on this one with the spread, because I do think Arizona is going to put up some points in this contest. But DFS wise, how are you guys feeling? Who are you really vibing with other than Jordan Reed, now that I've made this very compelling argument? Let's start with you, Pete.
Go ahead. I have so many questions.
I do just want to to mention that Tevin Coleman, the Schefter had a report about 20 minutes ago that it's still going to be a very fluid game time decision. It's actually up to Tevin right now whether he wants to play. So that is something to monitor. To me, Raheem Mostert is a guy that is incredibly interesting in this game if Tevin Coleman doesn't go. I mean, Jerick McKinnon's going to mix in on passing downs a little bit, very explosive. Dieter's giving me the nah wave, but I don't think they're going to give Mostert 30 carries. Someone else will be in the mix there, but Mostert would be a very sick play in this game. And I agree. You know, I'm on the tight ends with Dieter. I just prefer George Kittle to
that's
George
fair.
Reed.
That's fair. Listen, George Kittle, but like, here's the thing, right? Like Arizona has to choose their poison and they're going to double team George Kittle all game. It still won't matter. He'll still get catches. Don't get me wrong. Like George Kittle's going to have a day, but if you're looking for value, Jordan Reed's going to have a day too. It's stay away from all the 49ers wide receivers. I don't care how low you can go. Like Kendrick Bourne is never worth owning. Just throwing that out there.
Oh, now I got to play Jordan Reed at Stone Min on DraftKings. This is not good. Dieter, I think that like I agree with Pete on Mostert, by the way. I think that's something that we're gonna have to monitor over the next hour or so. My biggest question, and you're in the Bay Area, right? So I want to hear a little bit like what you think about this defense in San Francisco. Like there's a lot of change there, right? Like some personnel changes. I think that there's an argument that maybe they're not as good as they were last year. And maybe people like the public, the DFS public might think that they're this elite unit. I love this game because it's a later game, right? From DFS, like we're late swapping into this game if we're behind. Catching a lot of leverage in the afternoon is something we're always trying to do, but I'm not sure what to think about the San Francisco defense.
Well, I'll give you this. 10 of 11 starters return. The scheme is really solid. Fred Warner is a stud. Now, the questions are going to come about the secondary. I like the safeties. You like Richard Sherman. He's going to lock down one side of the field, though I don't necessarily like the matchup with speed in this game in particular. The question is Emmanuel Mosley or Akello Witherspoon on the other side, and either one of them is going to get cooked. So, listen, defense isn't sticky year over year, and I think the Niners faded at the end of last year when their defensive line started to get tired. I don't think they have the defensive line depth that they had last year. So I would say that they're still a top 10 defense, but they're probably closer to 10 than they are to 1. Just given, natural regression. And then also they just weren't able to keep around everybody. And they're probably going to give up some yards on the ground too. Like their run defense wasn't all that great last year, but they kind of held it together. I think they've lost some girth up the middle and they're going to have some problems there, though it could go the other way. Cause I don't think DeForest Buckner is all that great and he got paid over $100 million. So shows what I know, but, I would say that they're still really good. You can still feel really confident in playing the 49ers. This is probably not your week, just throwing that out there. But, man, they're probably closer to 10 than they are to 1, which I think says a lot. It's not too dissimilar from the Bears last year, right? Like the Bears were so dominant defensively in 2018, and then they regressed. And were they a bad defense? Not really, but they weren't great. And that's kind of just how it goes with that side of the ball. So I feel good about the Niners in general. I feel like that's a pretty good futures ticket to hold. Like you look at around the NFC, okay, you can feel okay about Tampa. You can feel, really good about the Saints, Dallas. Like I just don't know who the real competition here is. I think the Niners have more talent than any other team in the NFC. They just have to put it together, which is easier said than done, and injuries are going to happen. But they were really banged up last year, and they still went to the Super Bowl. So I feel like San Francisco is just a good position to hold in general. And as for Mostert, like he's going to cook today. And so is Kenyon Drake, by the way. Like if you guys can get in on Kenyon Drake, do it because he's a perfect scheme fit for what Cliff Kingsbury does in Arizona, man. And the Niners are going to have to protect so much against the pass that he's just going to get these delayed handoffs for 14 yards whenever he wants. So how you feel about Arizona wide receivers? Because Kyler Murray can spread the ball around a little bit. Is there anybody that you feel has value in the DFS landscape this week, Peter?
Yeah, this was a guy I played almost every week last year. Yeah. I love Christian Kirk. His price at $5,000. I think he is more suited, to be a number 2 wide receiver. Last year, he was getting a lot of attention as their best playmaker. And now you have DeAndre Hopkins, who I think is a little pricey relative to his role and not getting funneled targets like he did in Houston. So Christian Kirk in a pace-up game with Kyler Murray taking the second-year leap. Like you said, Kenyon Drake's going to keep this offense humming. They're going to run a lot of plays. I love Christian Kirk at 5,000. He's one of those guys I think is flying under the radar that you can pivot to if the Deshaun Jackson, Marvin Jones, Terry McLaurin chalk gets too much.
Joe,
that was my big question. It was,
Yeah.
Pete, what do you think the ownership's going to be like in this game? Because like at the same time, there's probably going to be some stacks coming in this Tampa Bay and New Orleans game. Like a pretty easy pivot is just to move over to this Arizona and San Francisco game. So like, for example, like just to bring it full circle,
Yeah.
Mike Evans looks like he's going to be working out today before the game. If he does play, they're going to be very cautious with him. So that would leave you with a decent amount of salary if you did have some Tampa Bay stacks going, or maybe you didn't want to play Godwin, like something like that, where things change throughout this day. I think that Arizona is interesting overall from like a game theory perspective, because I'm not scared of DeAndre Hopkins. I think there's enough people out there talking about how these wide receivers changing teams, like everything changes. I get it. He's not going to have the target share most likely, but it's not like 6,800 is too expensive for DeAndre Hopkins in this spot, in my opinion. I think the ceiling's there. Most people at that price range in that game probably just going to play Kenyon Drake at 6,400. So if we can get DeAndre Hopkins like sub 10%, sub 5% ownership, I think it's interesting for sure, because I don't think a lot of people are going to go there.
Yeah, you make me think that I need some more Kyler stacks in my portfolio. And maybe when we hop off here and talk about our 1,500, maybe we get a little Kyler Murray Kirk going.
We talked Leon into that one. Well, I think the good news is we're going to have a ton of salary because we're going to have Jordan Reed on that team, right?
Yeah,
that's right. 2 touchdowns. Book it.
Listen. When Jordan Reed goes for 2 touchdowns today, and I make everyone a ton of money, just remember, we talk on Tuesday, Holka, and I expect you to be sending some of that money my way. All right, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What a weird friggin' world we live in. New Orleans Saints 3.5 point favorites at home. This total, like I'm in on the overs. This total seems aggressive at 48 for Tom Brady. It's for the 2 old men. Like, I know they have the weapons, but like, come on, that's a lot of points. So maybe this is the stay away on that one. Let's talk about the guys around those guys, because I don't know. Maybe you guys are playing Breeze. Maybe you guys are playing Brady. I don't know. I want to get your perspective on it. But how do we feel about the weapons? How do we feel about, Tampa Bay, especially if Evans plays, if Evans doesn't play? How are we feeling about New Orleans just in general? Because that's a team that can spread it around too. Are we feeling better about Kamara now that he's paid? Or did last year kind of scare us off for good reason? Like, I don't know. Let's start with you, Pete. Like, what are you thinking about this game and the weapons around these quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, the Mike Evans situation is the big domino. It sounds like he's going to play, but the rumors are he might kind of be in a decoy fashion.
Yeah.
I think Godwin is going to get as many targets as he can handle. He's going to be chalky, but at 7,100 on DraftKings, he's a really good play. I think if you're looking for the dart throw, it sounds like Scotty Miller has the inside track on that wide receiver. Why can't I talk? Wide receiver.
Scotty Miller, wide receiver. Scotty Miller, wide receiver.
I forgot to do that one in our pre-show warm-up.
That's so good.
So yeah, that could work out. And then on the Saints side, I mean, these 2 teams in the dome, I mean, the Saints concentrate so heavily on Kamara and Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas, his splits in the dome last year, just otherworldly. I know he's pricey. I know he's going to be popular, but it's really hard to get away from Michael Thomas.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. Holka, what do you think?
Yeah, that's nice to know that there's at least some sort of inside track for Scotty Miller, because I kind of assume that might be a little bit of a rotation with him and Justin Watson. So that's good to know. Both those guys are super cheap. I don't know if we were really worried about Mike Evans anyway. Didn't he drop a goose egg against Lattimore last year in a pretty similar spot? Obviously, I talked about on Tuesday that the first play of this game was probably just going to go deep to Mike Evans, because everyone says he can't throw deep anymore. But obviously it doesn't look like that's going to happen now. I love Kamara, 7,200, great price. I prefer Kamara to Godwin. I'm not sure if that's a unique take or not, but I think both of them are pretty close. I like the floor from the pass catching running back. Michael Thomas, too expensive for me, 9K. No thanks on DraftKings. I think he's fine. I think the biggest question in this entire game is, who do you play, Rob Gronkowski versus Jordan Reed? Like, who gets into the end zone between one of these guys? Like, I'm going to put you on the spot, Dieter. Who has more fantasy points today, Rob Gronkowski or Jordan Reed? I think you got to die on this hill, man. I'm just going to hammer this thing home for you.
Reed.
Love it.
I mean, when you say he has 2 touchdowns, the answer to every question has to be Reed.
I was going to see if I get
I know. I was wondering if I'm already pot committed. Let's do this. Jordan Reed, we ride. If you have Scotty Miller or Jordan Reed, you can just take the rest of the money, right? Like, you don't need to spend it on anyone. Like, you just get to keep that, right?
Yeah, you save it for a rainy day.
That's how you make the Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey team work, I guess.
Exactly. It's just straightforward. Come on. Listen, you guys can provide this chalk value. I'm going deep here. I'm going way deep. I'm going Jordan Reed. I'm going Scotty Miller, favorite son of the Chicago West suburbs. What's up? Like, speedy white guy, Tom Brady. Come on. You know it to be true in your heart that he's going to throw it to him 9 times in this game, and he's going to catch 8 of them for like $112. All right, this game is going to be chaos. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to watch it until later, but I'm looking forward to it. And then this game, which, listen, this is another Dieter's going to die on this hill game. I get that the Rams linebackers suck. We are undervaluing the Rams, like across the board. The Rams would have made the playoffs last year under the current format. And I think we're all overhyping Dallas because we don't know what the hell else to do. Like, Dallas is 2-point favorites in LA. Give me the Rams all day, every day. Total's pretty high at 51.5, but I'll take the over, hell, because I think both offenses are going to cook. DFS, give me some perspective here. Who are you playing in this one? Or am I just, are me and Jordan Reed and this Rams pick just going to go die on an island somewhere?
Yeah, unfortunately, this one isn't on the main slate. They cut this one off. We used to have the Sunday night hammer, but we don't anymore.
Yeah.
But Peter, by the way, this is another one of our picks in the Super Contest. We have Dallas, so this is going to be
Cowboys.
one. Yeah, there we go. So right away, Dieter, we're on the other side of this one, man.
That's
I
fine.
I have to go with my Cowboys here in this one. I'm not a big Rams fan overall. This is the one that actually stood out to me as being.
You don't ram it?
Yeah, I don't apparently, but this one stands out to me as just one that I think the Cowboys pretty easily cover the spread here. Am I crazy, Pete? And if I am, I guess you can take the L on not being around yesterday when we put our picks in.
No, I think the Cowboys are going to scorch the earth this year. I think they're going to be the best team in the NFC. I think this offense is going to put up just an unbelievable amount of points. So yeah, I'm all in on the Cowboys.
I'm fading you boys hard. I'm fading you hard. Y'all are buying into the ESPN Fox hype nonsense where you just hear about the Cowboys all day, every day, and you go, they might be pretty good. And then they're going to cowboy it all the way up and down and go 9-7. And everyone's going to wonder, like, just no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And even if they win this week, even if they cover by just easy and they blow the Rams out in LA, not buying it. I need to see like 6 weeks of the Cowboys being a quality professional team before I buy into them as a legit Super Bowl contender and the best team in the NFC. That's my official stance on that. All right, we got some Monday night games. You guys want to talk about them?
Let's hear it.
Right.
We'll let you start us out here because we have another pick coming. I'm not sure if you'll be able to decipher what it is, but we do have one more pick left that we haven't talked about.
I can't wait to learn what it is.
Ben Roethlisberger is back. He gets to play Daniel Jones, who is a person. Pittsburgh has been bet down from 3.5-point favorites to 6-point favorites on some books. It might go to 7 by the time Monday comes around. 45 total in this game. That's going up too. Well, it's actually come down a little bit, but it's probably going to go right back up. I'm in on Roethlisberger. I'm in on the Steelers. I like the fact that they're actually going to throw the ball this year because they have the ability to do so. Wild concept. Anything you guys like in this game? What's your pick? Let's go with you, Pete.
Yeah, I think, again, the Steelers are this team that have been undervalued because, they had, what was it? Duck Hodges and who else? Mason Rudolph at quarterback last year. So
I started a game for him. It was really bad.
Yeah,
you didn't notice. You did notice, but the uniform fit well.
Yeah, you do the duck calls as well, I believe.
Yes. I mean, that's what people know me for.
And another guy that they lost for the whole season last year, Juju Smith-Schuster, back in action. They have some exciting young wide receivers in Deontay Johnson and James Washington. I'm going to be completely honest, guys. I have been focused on this main slate. I don't have too many Monday Night Football takes right now, but I do like the Steelers as a bounce-back team this year.
Holka.
Yeah, I think that the Steelers definitely a bounce back team for sure. This is our pick, Pete, our last one. So we better be rooting for the Steelers tomorrow night. Hopefully we can get that Monday night hammer for hopefully we're not sitting there just like 0-4, hoping we don't get a goose egg in week 1 in this winner take all contest we're in. But yeah, I think that my biggest, question here is that what happens when Saquon Barkley is contained in this one, because Pittsburgh's one of the best teams in the league at defending those short area passes. What happens to Daniel Jones? Like if he just doesn't have that safety blanket, it shapes up as a really tough spot for him overall, in my opinion.
Pete, what would you have done if Holka just told you that you guys were in on the Giants to cover this game?
I would be looking for a new partner. I'd be trying to call up the super contest, tell them that we didn't read the rules. We didn't realize it was winner take all. And I don't like our picks. Please give us our money back.
Good thing we got your buy-in, man. That's all that matters.
Danny Dimes being faded hard, by us and the world. All right, Ryan Tannehill versus Drew Lock. Tennessee at Denver in a game that they're being forced to play, and we're going to be forced to watch, I suppose. Denver was 2-point favorites. Then Von Miller busts up his ankle, RIP Von Miller. And now Tennessee are 3-point favorites. Apparently Von Miller is a 5-point player. Who would have thunk it? The total in this game is 40.5, which just makes me sad to read out loud. And I'm in on Denver. I don't like Drew Lock. I don't really like anything that Denver's doing, but I'm just fading Tennessee on principle at this juncture because Von Miller's not a 5-point player. And that's where I stand on. I'm taking the over because there's going to be a stupid touchdown, and one stupid touchdown gets us like a fifth of the way there. And give me the Broncos at home, Mile High, early week game. I don't know. This game is stupid. Stupid game. Pete, are you playing anybody in this one or no?
Well, the big kind of thing from a news and notes perspective is it doesn't sound like Cortland Sutton is going to play for the Broncos. He was what I like to call a grown-ass man last year, and I think that really does hurt the offense. So I think I would have been with you if Sutton was playing. The combination of Sutton and Vaughn being out makes me worry a little bit about this team. I mean, that means Jerry Jeudy is going to have to take on a much bigger role right out of the gate. Noah Fant as well as an exciting tight end there.
Yeah.
I definitely don't like betting on road teams in Denver on principle, but I think this Titans team with A.J. Brown, with Derrick Henry, a very efficient Ryan Tannehill, I think they're going to go in there and keep it close at least. So I think I lean Tennessee with the Sutton injury.
I got to throw this at you right now. Are you feeling Ryan Tannehill? Are you willing to ride Ryan Tannehill?
I am.
Oh boy. Those are death wishes, sir. Holka.
Here's the thing. I'm more willing to ride AJ Brown. And
that's fine. That makes sense. AJ Brown's good. Ryan Tannehill.
Good wide receivers make mediocre quarterbacks look good. That's my thesis.
Yeah. And so does an offense that never asks them to do anything difficult. Holka, what do you think about this game?
Pete, you took the words right out of my mouth, man. I think that A.J. Brown is someone that's really interesting in this spot. I actually saw a prop earlier today that his line was set at 56.5 receiving yards. I think I'd be hammering the over on something like that, especially in this season where not a lot of training camp, that sort of thing. Like tackling is one of the things we keep talking about. Maybe it's an issue. A.J. Brown is one of those guys after the catch that is really hard to tackle anyway. So I like the over on most of the props I've seen on A.J. Brown so far. I think that I'm probably not the best source for Tennessee related things because I lost so much money on Derrick Henry last year by just continuing to not play him in DFS. So I guess kind of avoid Derrick Henry. I guess assume that I would just hope at least that he would just not be relevant, but he is. I'm just really happy this game's not on the main slate. I will say that Ryan Tannehill, like I said it on Tuesday, but I still think that he's one of those quarterbacks that you could easily see just turning back into a pumpkin. He's got his money. I'm not convinced that he's the guy we saw last year, but I do like AJ Brown, so I'm with you on that one.
All right. Before we get out of here, what's your best bet against the spread this week, and who's your favorite DFS sleeper? You can go with you, Holka.
Earlier this week, I was all over the Eagles at -6.5 over Washington. Now that they've got these offensive line issues, I'm kind of backpedaling a little bit on that one. But I think that was the one that stood out earlier in the week. As we kind of progress through here, I do think that the Colts roll today. So I think that even though that line's at 7.5, I feel pretty confident that the Colts are going to take care of business against Jacksonville. So I'll go with that one.
Pete?
I will tie it into a little piece of news I saw come through in the inactives. Look, I love Laviska Shenault. I've been so excited about him. I've been trying to check my biases about playing this week, but Dede Westbrook is inactive. He was the other guy that was going to play in the slot. To me, this is all systems go for Laviska. He's 4,400 on DraftKings. Maybe he doesn't have the monstrous ceiling, but I think he should have a pretty nice floor, get a couple of carries, probably 5 to 6 targets. I like him a lot.
You got a spread pick for the week, buddy?
The spread pick, well, let's go with our super contest pick, the Dallas Cowboys.
Love it.
Definitely got to back the squad. All that research I did on making those picks, I didn't do it for nothing.
All right. Give me Jordan Reed as the DFS sleeper. 2 touchdown Jordan Reed. Watch when he has 3, you can all laugh at me for being so wrong. And then let's go with Miami.
Speaking of Jordans, I got a producer in my ear right now. He wants to hear our 3 favorite prop bets of the day. So I already mentioned AJ Brown as one of the ones that I was on. I think that I saw one for Allen Robinson earlier today that was actually only at I think it was 4 catches. I think that's really low. So, I have him at like close to 6. So I think I'll go Allen Robinson over receptions. I'll go over on AJ Brown receiving yards, and those are the 2 I've got right now. Anyone else have any while I'm finding another one?
So hold on, guys. Dieter the Duck over there. I want to build some animosity between the 3 of you. So what I want you to do is I have 3 prop bets, most of them based on players. I want you each to answer. We will keep track, and the loser gets sent to Redemption Island. Okay. Boston Scott to score plus 125. Going left to right.
I'm taking it.
Okay. Not left to right. Joe, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'll take that. For sure.
Peter?
I'll take the over.
Yeah, he's getting in the box.
Cool. Next one. This is a tough one. Michael Gallup, over 67.5 receiving yards at minus 112.
Under for me as well.
Yep. I don't want to agree with you guys. Under.
Okay, I'm going over on that one, and I'm a fish.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
It's a big number.
Yeah. Last one here. Would you guys rather go Michael Thomas or Chris Godwin?
Oh, that one's not close for me. Michael Thomas.
Okay, so the prop for Michael Thomas is over 97.5, and the prop for Godwin is over 75.5. So I give you that option as a friendly producer here.
I'll take the Godwin side of that. I think that the difference in the line does it for me for sure. I think Godwin's going to eat today.
I'll stick with Thomas over 90.
Ooh, saucy. Okay, there's some disagreement because I'm taking Godwin.
Love it.
And by the way, you can get Jordan Reed to score 2 touchdowns at plus 9,500.
Let's go. I can't wait to see him score, man. Your mentions are going to be on fire. It's been great.
It's going to be awesome.
Leone said he's going to talk us into playing Todd Gurley, Pete. So now we got to talk him into playing Jordan Reed.
we need to wrap this up so we can go make sure Leone's not lighting $1,500 on fire for us today.
All right, that will do it. Line Movement NFL show. You're going to make money or not. But Jordan Reed's going to score 2 touchdowns, and that's all you really needed to know from this past hour and 15 minutes. So for Joe Holka and Peter Overzet, Dieter Kurtenbach, we'll see y'all next week.